In today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast, we have part 2 of our crossover with the Locked On Knicks podcast, where I ask Alex all questions to get answers from a Knicks perspective. Stay tuned. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Khahil. I've been covering the team, the Detroit Pistons, since 2021 for the Locked On Network. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, make sure you're heading over to LockedOnDaily.com, typing in your email. You'll get a Locked On Pistons daily newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. We got content coming to you guys in every which way possible. And along with that, if you want to watch Pistons games with me and the rest of the Pistons fan base, I'll link down below the playback room where you can watch playoff games this year with me. And again, like I said, the rest of the Pistons fan base. And if you guys want even more content, I got you guys at my Substack, providing film breakdowns after every single playoff game, game recaps, game previews, breakdowns, analysis. I have that all for you guys as well over at the Substack. I'll link that down below for you guys. But in today's episode, it's going to be part 2 of our Locked On Knicks crossover. It probably won't be the last episode we do with Locked On Knicks throughout the series, but this is part 2 of our Q&A with Alex. The first episode was last episode where he asked me every question, and I answered it from a Pistons perspective. Now, we're just swapping roles. I'm going to be asking him questions, and he's going to be telling me his answers from a Knicks perspective. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Again, check out the description down below for all the links, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Enjoy today's episode. Peace out, everybody. What's going on, everybody? We're here with Alex Wolfe, Khahil, Locked On Pistons host, Alex Wolfe, Locked On Knicks host. Obviously, I don't know what in order you guys have watched this in, whether you guys saw me answering the questions or if you're about to see Alex answer the questions. But I'm now going to ask Alex all the questions I have from a Pistons perspective for the Knicks about this series. So let's get it going. I hope you guys enjoy both parts of this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this series. But let's go ahead and get the questions going. Alex, so I want to start off with this. I've had James Edwards III, former Pistons beat writer. James is my guy, but he's now the Knicks beat writer for The Athletic. I've talked with Gavin about this. The Knicks defense since February 28th has been infinitely better. I believe they're around 7th in defensive rating since February 28th. In that same week, OG returned and Mitchell Robinson returned. The question I have for you is this. Is that defense legit? Is it a real improvement that you believe in? Is it because those guys returned and therefore the defense is better? Or is it because right around that time, Jalen Brunson also got hurt and missed about a month or so? Is it because they don't have Jalen Brunson, who's miniature and not great on defense, and now they've replaced him with better defenders? Is that why the defense improved? Or is it more about the fact you got Mitch back, you got OG back, and now this is what the defense really is going to look like? Like, where is that at?
I think it all depends on who's on the floor together at any given time and how the Knicks choose to deploy them, which has been the biggest on both sides of the ball, frankly, just conundrum this whole year. I feel like it's been really hard to get a grasp on what Tibbs wants to go to, who he wants to play whatever role. You know, some games it's like Mikal Bridges is just, I mean, I feel bad for the guy to a degree. Like, you know, there are a lot of games where the Knicks will face a Cade Cunningham or a Cade Cunningham level player, and Tibbs will just go, Mikal, you're going to follow that guy the entirety of this game for like 38 minutes. Like, you're going to be out there, you know, you're going to be covering this guy. And I think we've seen, you know, and Gavin and I have talked about this a lot on our show, but, you know, like Mikal, and it's hard to blame him, like looking like he's kind of burning out down the stretch of games sometimes, having to get over screens and do all that screen navigation, and the Knicks just generally not being creative enough with like switching their looks. You know, like they never switch to zone like most NBA teams do now as a change of pace, just to kind of give guys a little bit of time off of all that screen navigation and everything. They kind of just like it is what it is. Like whatever they've locked into is kind of what Tibbs sticks to. Now, when you bring up like Mitchell Robinson coming back, OG coming back was a huge boon. Make no mistake about it. And I mean, the time that he was missing was tough because he is, in my opinion, the most singularly destructive force for good on the Knicks in terms of their defense. I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. You can throw him on someone like Cade and he can defend him one-on-one. You can have him ball hawking off the ball, and there's are very few players that are as talented as him at reading what's happening on the floor at any given time, essentially playing like free safety and being all over the place, getting his hand on balls, coming in for weak side blocks, like being a good like secondary rim protector, almost like Giannis style, like how Giannis has kind of made his living as a rim protector over the years, of being like not necessarily the guy that's on the inside doing the primary defending, but the guy that comes in and gets the swat at the last second and prevents, what could have otherwise been an easy layup. So I mean, with getting OG back, that was a huge boon, and that definitely had something to do with their defensive rating getting better from that point forward. Getting Mitch back has helped over time. I think that he took a little bit to get his sea legs back. Like he was out for a long time, thanks to Joel Embiid intentionally injuring him in the playoffs last year, which I will never let go because it was one of the dirtiest plays I've ever seen in my life. But Mitch missed the better part of this season rehabbing his ankle injury. That said, I mean, he looks about as good and as impactful as I've seen him look since early last season, before he went down with another injury, which kept him out a large part of last season. And then he came back by the playoffs and was only just rounding into form, like by around the time that the playoffs got started. This year, I think that they've been really smart about his workload and about resting him, not playing him back to backs. They've been trying to like ensure, I think they understand how important Mitchell Robinson is to potentially winning playoff series, because they've almost like half kept him on ice. Like they haven't quite taken him all the way out of the fridge yet. They're still keeping him a little chilled, because they're trying not to overexert him. They're trying not to they're just trying to eliminate chances for him to get injured. But that said, in the games that he has played lately, as much as a guy can in 15 to 20 minutes in most, given games that he's been playing lately, he's been impacting things a lot. His interior defense is back. I mean, he is one of the scariest interior defenders in the league, in the sense that he doesn't necessarily get his block numbers anymore, but he is a huge deterrent on the inside. I mean, players are just straight up afraid to shoot on the inside when he is sitting there, because they know if they don't potentially kick it out or whatever, that there's a good chance that if he decides he wants to, he can block them. And he also has the discipline to not foul as much anymore, which is great. The thing is, if the Knicks are ultimately going with the starting lineup that they went most of the year with, that lineup is more designed to outgun you. And so if they're going to be going with that lineup of Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, and Cat for, whatever, 38 minutes a game or whatever they were doing at their peak early in the season, I don't know that revitalized defensive rating is necessarily going to hold up. Because I think that lineup, because of having the weaknesses at the 1 and 5 there of Brunson, who does his best, but ultimately there's only so much you can do, especially against a team that has like some more size, like the Pistons at all the guard spots, where, I think that Brunson will struggle no matter who he's on a little bit. And it's gonna take some pretty good strategizing on the defensive end to like put him in positions where he could do what he does best, which I think his best attribute on defense is when he's allowed to play free safety a little bit and like not have to defend on ball. He does have good instincts though about getting a hand in there in the passing lane, starting a transition opportunity, stuff like that. They're gonna have to work on that, but Cat needs to stay out of foul trouble for sure, and that's going to be a big thing. And maybe that leads to more Mitchell Robinson playing time, which then would mean a better defense, but in theory, a worse offense. But it's all going to depend. The Knicks might also throw something at the wall that we haven't even seen yet, because they've very rarely, thanks to the kind of strategic resting of guys down the stretch of the season, had full like their full deck of cards on any given night for the last like month and a half of the season, if not even longer. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I guess the roundabout way of saying it is like it's sort of a nothing answer, but their defense either could or could. It's like the Schrodinger's defense. It either could or could not be as good as it's been down the stretch of the season. And it all kind of just depends on what personnel groupings Tibbs really wants to lead into.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. This is the question that Pistons fans want me to ask you.
Okay.
They probably wanted me to ask you this right out the gate. This this is how like Pistons fans, and we talked about it in the episode. We recorded this one second, so we just got done recording when I was answering the questions. This is how Pistons fans feel, so I'll go ahead and ask it. Since January 4th, it's been a 50-game sample.
Mhm.
I'll go through the numbers. Since January 4th, the Pistons have the 10th best offense in the NBA. The Knicks have the 16th. The Pistons have the 8th best defense since then, slightly off from what I said earlier. I believe I said 4th earlier on the other episode we did. It's 8th since January 4th. The Knicks are down at 17th. When you look at the net rating since then, the Pistons are the 6th best net rating, and the Knicks are the 15th best net rating. So Pistons fans and have looked at this and they say, well, why? How are the Knicks minus 460 to win the series? Why are the Pistons such big underdogs? Why can't the Pistons win this series? They've been the better team for 50 games. They won the season series for 3-1. Like, why can't they win the series? Why are they such big underdogs? We talked about why potentially a little bit on the when we record the one when I was answering the questions, but I'd like you to give your answer to Pistons fans. Despite those numbers, because you asked me what my prediction was the last time. I said I was really torn, and I gave the reasoning why. But I want to hear from you. Despite the numbers for the last 50 games suggesting that the Pistons are a top team on at least the same level as the Knicks, why are the Knicks, do you believe, such big favorites, and why you believe the Knicks will still pull out this series despite maybe the numbers saying the Pistons are on the same level? When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, fit, comfort, just finding the right style for me. Skims changed all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried the Skims boxer briefs and I'm hooked. These are perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me, never lose their shape, and stay in place all day long. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, shop men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Now I gotta tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, Game Time. You guys know I love Game Time because I'm a procrastinator and I wait till the last second to get my tickets all the time. Oftentimes it screws me over, but Game Time, it saves me, and there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as the tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever event you want to go to. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time.
First off, I'll say, like, I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking the Pistons have a good chance of winning the series because they've played fantastic. I think Cade has played like potential future MVP candidate level down the stretch of the season. I mean, he's fantastic. I'm actually really happy to see him finally coming into his own, because I know it was kind of he was putting up good numbers and stuff his first few years, but just kind of didn't have the personnel around him to really take advantage. So they've been a fun team to watch. I think ultimately whatever order you want to put them in, the reason that the Knicks would be favored by Vegas and would in general be given the benefit of the doubt is that they probably, again, on paper, have 3, if not 4 of the top, like 4 or 5 players in the series on paper. They have a lot of talent. They have Jalen Brunson, who's, it's going to be him or Cade is going to be the best player in the series. I don't think that that's a hot take at all. Whether Cade like really steps up and has a phenomenal series or whether it's Brunson has already proven. I mean, he's he's probably the number one reason why, like, if I'm Vegas, I'm still putting the Knicks as the favorites to win the series, because Brunson has done it before. I mean, he did it last year. I mean, you mentioned this number a couple times in the first show we did, but like 3 straight 40-point games to help close out the Sixers last year. Like, this guy, I mean, even against like Miami the year prior, or against like the Pacers last year, like it hits the playoffs and his stock goes up instead of down. Like, most players, their efficiency takes a hit, their style of play doesn't become as effective, whatever. Jalen Brunson, because of the way that he plays, because of the fact that everything with him is just like sauce, and like he's just constantly breaking guys down off the dribble. He has like some of the most crazy stop start control in the NBA. He has a great pull up jumper. He has a great step back. He has a great ability of, even during the playoffs when things get more physical, drawing enough contact that it's indisputable and that he will get a foul call and will be able to produce like 8 to 10 free throws per game in any given playoff game. He's probably reason one. Reason two is, like, at their best, this Knicks offense was like a top 2-3 offense early in the season. I think, and I mean, it's crazy to think that with all those numbers you just cited about how bad things have been since like early January, the fact that they still ended up, I think, with the 5th highest offensive rating in the NBA this year, despite how crappy they were down the stretch of the season, just underscores how crazy good they were in the beginning of the season on offense. And that was that starting lineup of Brunson, Bridges, OG, Hart, and Cat, playing honestly like kind of a more, I don't want to say more simplified, because they go to like ISO too often now, but like a pretty basic, like, running horn sets, having double screens with Cat and Hart, having Hart cut to the hoop or receive the pass and then like run another screen with Cat or whatever, having Cat pop out to 3, where he's obviously that's what makes him as valuable as he is being able to shoot the 3. Brunson is great off catch and shoot. So, if the ball got out of his hands, he could just catch it and shoot it. But then having OG and Khahil in the corners who could just drive in, like, they were great at either just shooting the open 3 that they were fed, or putting it on the floor, attacking a closeout, getting inside, finishing a layup, or if the defense comes from the other side, kick it to their fellow corner mate on the other side, because both of them have one corner that they really, really love to shoot from. So it was like they had a lot of good things going for them on offense early in the season. I think a lot of the Knicks being the betting line favorite is just like, at a time this season, they were one of, or at least presenting as one of the elite teams in the NBA. They've just kind of lost their way down the stretch of the season. And I think it's ultimately just like, I think game 1 is going to tell us a lot about where this whole series is going to go. If the Pistons come out and they shock the Knicks in game 1 at the Garden, I think the Knicks are in trouble. I think that means that something is fundamentally broken with this team and that they're probably not going to recover. And maybe that's being a little too downer of me or whatever, but the Knicks basically, again, to just simplify it down, they have a ton of talent. They have the type of talent on their team that should, in theory, be able to potentially lead to like an Eastern Conference Finals appearance or something like that. It's just going to be, and I mean, this falls a lot on their coach, who has become, Tibbs has become pretty well maligned among a lot of Knicks fans lately, but kind of falls on him to utilize them properly and call plays that put them in the best position to potentially win this series. And will he do that? Will the talent just be too overwhelming in terms of all the guys the Knicks have that can score the ball and whatever? That I don't necessarily think is the case if they're not deployed properly, but we'll see how it goes. But that is, I think, in a nutshell, why the Knicks are favored. They have the elite talent. They have shown that they can be elite at a certain point this season. They just have really not been looking like it lately. So it's kind of just a bet on them returning to form.
Yeah, I look, from someone who covers the Pistons, obviously, I understand completely why the Knicks are favored. I think they should be favored. They have the talent, like you mentioned. Their talent is, I've said it all year with the Knicks. The Knicks, like, the idea of the Knicks should be a team, like you mentioned, that get to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. Like, they have the talent. There's the ceiling of this team should be, like, the talent of this team should not be being discussed of could they lose to the Pistons in the first round. Like, the talent of this team should be, we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're on the same level as the Cavs, except like that kind of thing. So I understand why they're the favorites. Obviously, they have more experience. They have more talent. I get it. So just wanted to, I know this is a lot of the talk from the Pistons side where Pistons fans are looking at like, well, the numbers say like the Pistons, why are they so underdog? It's like, okay, and look, I picked them in 6. It is what it is. But I understand why the Knicks are favored. They have more talent. If they do figure it out, it could be very rough for the Pistons trying to stop that offense if they click like they were earlier in the year. The next question I have does have to do with the offense. So from the outside perspective, from my perspective, it looks as though, at least if I was the coach of the Knicks, and who am I? I'm just a regular podcast host. But if I was the coach of the Knicks, I would think that like going 5 out would be like the best way to unlock the talent on this team. But because of how great of a shooter Cat is at the 5 position, but the Knicks ranked 27th in 3-point attempts, and Cat is actually not shooting as many threes as you think this year. It is a 2-part question. I'll ask the first one quickly. Why do you think that is? Do you think their 3-point rate will jump up? Why is Cat not shooting as many threes as you think? Is that scheme? Is that just Cat choosing not to take as many? Like, what is leading to that?
Well, that's the $1 million question, or maybe the $55 million question. You know, whatever it is the Cat makes. Like, I don't know, but I think it's mostly scheme. I don't think the Cat doesn't want to shoot threes because he sometimes forces it. Honestly, like he'll sometimes get the ball and he'll be like 5 feet behind the 3-point line and just hoist one just because you could tell that he's kind of itching to do so. I think that they just don't go to pick and pop nearly enough. I mean, it should be like NBA 2K style, to be honest. Like if you have Brunson and Cat out there, you should just be spamming, you know, the what is it, the left bumper and setting that screen with the center and then hitting the right bumper and setting it to pop every single time. Like, and I don't understand why they don't do it. And it's even gotten to the point where in some recent games, like they'll run a Brunson and Cat pick and roll and you'll be like, just pop there. And then he'll like drift to the free throw line. And it's like, why? Like it doesn't seem like that's what he wants to do. So that the only thing that I can assume is that that's what they're scheming, which just doesn't make any sense to me, unless Tibbs's ideal is like, well, we got to get him closer to the hoop because he's a good rebounder or something. Like, oh, he could potentially get an offensive rebound, like, which is just stupid logic because you typically have Josh Hart out there who makes his money off of crashing in out of nowhere for an offensive rebound at the last second. And that worked plenty well for the Knicks early in the season. So yeah, again, it's just as befuddling to me as it is to you. And unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer for why they don't go to it and why they have specifically gone to shooting with Cat less and less, like on a consistent downward curve throughout the entire year, where it seems like he's just, it is now cratered to the point where if he shoots 2 threes in a game, people are almost being like, oh my God, he actually shot a couple of threes in a game, which just seems absurd for a guy that should be shooting probably 7 to 9 per game if you want to leverage him as best as humanly possible.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming with more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney+, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? Well, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube with Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On. Visit there to get started today with Amazon Fire TV. Yeah, and look, I think that's another thing Pistons fans will be watching for. I think that's something the Pistons will be watching for because, look, I'm objective. I'm unbiased. I'm not going to be on here, waving pom-poms, okay? Like, I'm going to be honest. The Knicks have, if you look at this game, at this series objectively, the Knicks should theoretically have more answers to the Pistons' counters. Like, the Pistons should not have as many counters to whatever the Knicks could throw at them. They have some, and maybe they work out, but the Knicks should have more answers to whatever the Pistons throw at them. Like, for example, like if they do try, like Cat at the 5 and spacing them out has been a problem all year for the Pistons guarding stretch 5s. They've struggled with that consistently. Whether the Knicks go to it enough, or whether they go to what's about to be my second part of the question, 5 out more to kind of try to take advantage of that pressure point within the Pistons defense. We'll see if that's something they actually want to do. So that leads me to the next question. Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson defensively have been absurd since January 4th. Asar Thompson's changed this team defensively. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA defensively since Asar Thompson came into the starting lineup. And part of that has been because he's made things so much easier on Jalen Duren, who struggles guarding in space. Now, that can be taken advantage of when he goes against stretch 5s. Ask Indiana, ask Milwaukee. That's been something he struggled with, and it often results in him not being able to play as much. The Knicks have Cat, who is maybe the greatest shooting 5 we've ever seen. He's certainly in the argument. We just talked about how he's not shooting as many threes. The other thing is, I think if the Knicks come out and try to run a lot of Hart Cat, the counter the Pistons will do, I'm almost 100% sure of it. They will put Duren on Hart, and then they'll put Tobias on Cat, and they'll just switch screen and rolls with Brunson and Cat to take away the pop and have Duren hang around the paint to try to take away the drives. I think that will be the counter. I think I've seen quite a few teams do that counter versus the Knicks and try to take advantage of the fact that Hart, they don't really respect Hart as a shooter. My question is, do you believe that is a successful counter? Maybe you disagree and think that's playing into the Knicks' hands. If you disagree with it, let me know why. But if you do agree that it is a counter to the Knicks' offense, has Tibbs shown the willingness, or do you believe Tibbs will be willing to make what I would believe the next counter, which would be, okay, we'll go 5 out, force Duren to have to guard somebody and take advantage of him in space? What's your answer to those two questions?
I think that your solution, or like your counter, makes perfect sense. So I don't really have too much to add to that. I will say, in terms of Tibbs's willingness to make that next counter, I don't know until we see what happens in the games. Unfortunately, every shred of evidence tells me that if Josh Hart is not being respected from 3, and he is not making the threes that he's not being respected on, that Tibbs will still probably leave him out there, because you just look no further from the fact that, like, Josh Hart led the NBA in, I think, minutes per game, and perhaps even total minutes this year. I know he missed like 1 game, I think, so maybe he didn't quite hit the total minutes compared to like his teammate Mikal Bridges, for example, but he led the NBA in minutes per game this year. And I don't want to like crap on him. I don't think that he's a bad player, but I don't think that he's the type of guy that's like, that's my horse and I got to ride him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that Josh Hart is that type of dude. I don't necessarily, and I don't mean this as a knock, I don't even know that he's necessarily like in his best role being a starter. I think that the best version of Josh Hart with the Knicks was when he was coming in off the bench and was, this was 2 years ago, but like he would come in off the bench and just be the spark plug, and he would play like 25 to 30 minutes a game and, get out there, run in transition with the second unit, kind of captain them a bit and whatever. And I feel like that's kind of the best role for him. Like, he's kind of a backbreaker. Like, he's the type of guy that goes out there when you're already a little tired with his fresh legs and comes out, snatches a rebound out of your hands in the air, goes up and gets a putback, gets that defensive rebound and just sprints the whole length of the floor and finishes for a layup, whatever. He's not a shooter, straight up. I mean, it's really frustrating because we talk about this all the time on our show, but like, if you look at his career numbers, and especially like earlier in his career, he was a consistent, like, and not on insignificant volume, like 36% 3-point shooter, which if he could even just be that at this stage consistently and not have these weird, like, the 3-point shooting thing with Hart is a roller coaster. It's either he goes out there and he's like Klay Thompson and hits like 4 or 5 in a game or whatever, or he's out there and every time he gets it, even if he's wide open, he looks like a deer in the headlights. He looks like he doesn't want to shoot it. He sits there for like a solid like 2 seconds, like debating if he wants to shoot it or not. And then maybe we'll shoot it, but you can tell already then he's too in his own head. He's not shooting in rhythm, or he'll put it on the floor and then turn it into usually not a great possession because then he's kind of just dribbling right at the guy who wants him to dribble at him and then has to create something out of that. Um, I really love Josh Hart. He's done a ton for this team. I think that he's on a great value contract. I think that he's like extremely valuable to what this team can do at its best. And I don't think that he should be like benched or something. But I do think if the Knicks want to, hey, maybe again, maybe just on that talent level alone or whatever, they're able to like get by the Pistons in this first series. But if they want to seriously compete with, say, the Celtics or something like that, Tibbs needs to start being more willing to make tough decisions like that, like possibly benching a Josh Hart down the stretch. And as of right now, he's just a guy who leans so hard on his favorites that I don't see it happening, even if someone like a Deuce McBride, for example, would be a better fit down the stretch of a game, or just to give you more offense in a game where, like, let's say you just need four guys spaced around and let Jalen Brunson cook and do what he does best, break guys down off the dribble, get inside, potentially draw a foul, or kick it out to a wide open shooter. Like, that could be the best possible version of this offense. Unfortunately, we've gone a whole regular season barely seeing it. And I don't really think that that's going to just suddenly change in the playoffs. And one of two things will probably happen. It's either that lack of adjustment is either going to lose Tibbs the series in the first round and maybe his job, or it's going to possibly he'll be able to skirt by and get to the second round on the back of like Jalen Brunson playing really well or whatever. And then they'll just get absolutely stomped by the Celtics again, as they have throughout the entire season. But yeah, it's to answer your question, I'm not betting money on Tibbs making those sort of adjustments because there's just no body of work to suggest that he will.
So, last question I have, and then we'll wrap this up. So, both these teams have pressure points where you can try to take advantage of. The Pistons, I think, just honestly probably have more pressure points because of the difference in talent. One of the pressure points is the Knicks could try to do the same thing to the Pistons, where they're like, okay, Asar, we don't respect you as a shooter. We're going to play off of you and try to clog up the paint. Asar is so important to the Pistons that they can't just take him off the floor. And they've done at times a really good job of, okay, teams are doing that. We're going to put the ball in your hands. You're going to run some pick and rolls. We're going to get you going to the basket, utilize your playmaking, your ability to get to the basket, be a paint touch, to where if they're going to sag off you, we can try to take advantage of it in different ways. We'll use you in DHOs. We'll use you in the screen and roll. We'll do different things instead of just spotting you up in the corner where guys can try to take advantage of it. Nonetheless, I think that's an area the Knicks will try to take advantage of. But Asar is so important that I don't believe the Pistons – he's so important to the Pistons being successful that I don't think the Pistons can say our adjustment is just take him off the floor. I don't think that would work for the Pistons. I guess it kind of goes off what you were just talking about just real quickly. I mean, Josh Hart is playing as many minutes as you said. From an outsider's point of view, we don't watch as much as Knicks, obviously. Is Josh Hart, like, is he that important? Like, is he really, like, that impactful on the Knicks to where you understand why it's like he's really important to what we do. I understand how they're guarding him, but he's too impactful to take him off the floor. We have to have him on the floor. Is it that level of impact, or is it more, you believe, just stubbornness from Tibbs?
I think it's probably more the latter. It's more stubbornness. And I mean, again, I don't mean that as a knock on Hart. Like, I think he's a fantastic player that should, at minimum, be playing like 20 to 25 minutes on this team on a given night. The main thing is just that lack of shooting becomes such an issue sometimes with this team because, again, if you're going to field the lineup where you're having Jalen Brunson out there who you have to account for on defense, or who you have to, make up for on defense, and then you're also having Cat out there who you also are probably going to have to protect on defense quite a bit. I mean, Hart is part of the group that's been affectionately dubbed Wingstop by Knicks fans this year of OG, Khahil, and Hart. They're tasked with being the first and second line of defense in many cases because you know that you're not going to get that dominant defensive effort from Cat on the inside. That said, you're generally not losing much on the defensive end, and in fact are probably gaining some to a degree a lot of times by playing Deuce McBride instead of Josh Hart on the defensive end, because between Khahil and OG, you have a good amount of size. Like, OG can slot down to a 4. Khahil is big enough to deal with most threes and not get like completely bullied. Deuce is shorter, but has a long wingspan and has like that football player body. Like he used to play football in high school, whatever. Like he's like, he doesn't quite look it, but he is stronger than he looks and can hold up pretty well against like bigger guards and whatever. And, I mean, it's not like Cade didn't go off, but we even saw him like kind of hold his own against Cade for, some periods of time during the Knicks and Piston games. So I don't think you're losing too much on defense by sitting Hart in that case. And then on offense, it's like Hart does give you some important things. Like, right, you mentioned in our first show about the Pistons maybe not having secondary playmaking or as much as they might need. Hart in many ways is that for the Knicks. Like he is the secondary playmaker. He's the guy that gives Brunson a little rest and lets him go off ball for a little bit. Hart can come down. He can run a pick and roll. He can get to the inside pretty well, and he's pretty good at passing from the inside and hitting someone on the perimeter. That said, like it's not so indispensable, especially with how good Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby played with the ball in their hands down the stretch of the season. That was maybe the one saving grace, I guess, of Brunson getting hurt for those 15 games or however long he was out. Was we got to see more on-ball OG reps, so we got to see him start looking like, not to be too lofty, but like a lot of people were like, this dude looks kind of like Kawhi Leonard light. Like it was crazy. Like he had enough sauce with the ball in his hands to like blow by people, to like get to his step backs, to get all the way inside and finish with power with big dunks and stuff. Like he looked fantastic with the ball in his hands. Mikal was trusted with way more like playmaking and bringing the ball down, running that initial action, getting to the inside. That let him get his mid-range shot going really well, let him kick to the outside. All that is to say, like, I just feel like at this point, having, even if Deuce McBride is essentially just out there as like a 3-and-D guy, or if you want to go with another thing, which we didn't really get to, but like the double big alignment, this like mythical thing that the Knicks have not gone to all year, really, of Cat and Mitchell Robinson together. To me, it's just like, no matter which way you slice it, if you're going to replace one person in the lineup with a different player, it's pretty much Josh Hart, because I think that what everybody else does is more indispensable than what Hart brings. And it's not a knock on Hart. It's just that, like, if Hart's not performing at, I mean, he is like the ultimate like motor, hustle, whatever guy. And if everything isn't clicking for him, it's just like there's probably someone else that could be out there and be a little more additive to what the Knicks need at that given moment than Josh Hart. Even if for large swaths of the game, he's going to give you some really good minutes. He's going to get you great transition opportunities. He's going to get some clutch rebounds, whatever. And he might justify him being in there in clutch situations and stuff in certain games like we saw in Philly last year. But I think Tibbs just has to be more willing to pull the trigger on not having him out there in clutch situations, because typically if things are not going well down the stretch, he's the guy that you would most say, like, if something's got to change, let's maybe try changing out Hart first and then see where things go from there. So yeah, that's a unfortunately very long-winded answer. Sorry for droning on and on, but it's something that it has been probably one of the number one conversation points among Knicks fans this year. Is just like, we love Josh Hart, but there's sometimes just too much Josh Hart, and Tibbs needs to be a little more open to the idea of possibly having him sit down sometimes. And to be fair, the same has gone for even like Mikal Bridges at different points of the season. OG Anunoby really struggled shooting for a while, certain points of the season, but we've seen Mikal sit down the stretch of games. And I feel like we just have never really seen that with Josh Hart. It's like he's a guy that just holds a certain special place in Tibbs's heart for whatever reason. And pun intended, I guess. But yeah, it's been a whole thing the whole season.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, look, the playoff series, in the playoffs, all it's about counters on counters on counters. And I think, again, like I mentioned in the first episode we did, and like I mentioned a little bit in here, I do believe the Knicks, if they play up to their talent potential, they just naturally should have more counters to what the Pistons will throw at them. It's a matter of, can they get to those counters? If they don't, I think that's when the Pistons can come in and win the series, if they don't get to those counters and play well. So that's what we'll wrap it up at. Alex, how do you think this series is going to go?
I I mean, I've said it like 5 times in this episode. Like, I don't fault any Pistons fan for being confident in their ability to potentially win this series. It reminds me a lot in some ways of how, like, from a Knicks perspective, that a lot of us felt going into that Cavs series 2 years ago, being like, yeah, they might be the higher seed, but like, I don't know, the Knicks are pretty freaking good, and like they've been doing a lot of good things, and like seeding doesn't matter once you get to the playoffs. You know, obviously the home court advantage thing helps, and it certainly does help the Knicks. I mean, I will say like Madison Square Garden, it truly is sometimes a six man in the playoffs. It turns into a complete as like magical of a place as it is during the regular season. Everybody comes there ready to lose their voice in the playoffs. There's the acoustics of the building are insane. I mean, it is designed to be a hostile environment for a road team. So um, I think that plays into part of why I'm thinking the way I do. I do think the Knicks should be able to take care of business at home. I feel confident enough in their talent level, and honestly, in my the X factor that Knicks fans are blessed enough to have on their team in Jalen Brunson, and what he does during the playoffs. Uh, I feel cautiously optimistic that they will come out of this series. Like you, I'm going to say I think it goes 6. I almost want to say I think it goes 6 no matter what, because I think if the Pistons come out and they shock the Knicks in game 1, there's a decent chance then that the Knicks have a hard time getting their feet back under them. And the Knicks will probably then win game 2, but then you run into a situation where the Pistons get 2 straight games at home. I know Detroit is no slouch of a city for playoff atmosphere either. Obviously had all those great years in the, at least the ones that I'm more familiar with, the ones in the mid 2000s, with the Billups and Rip Hamilton and Ben and Rasheed Wallace teams and all that. So I know that they have a crazy playoff environment, especially when they have a team that they really believe in. So if that happens, if the Pistons steal one of those first 2 games, particularly game 1 is the one that really scares me, because that would be the one where I think Tibbs will be most open and vulnerable to potentially getting like out schemed. If that happens, I think there's a decent chance the Pistons win it in 6. I'm going to stick to my guns though and say I think the Knicks have enough adjustments, have enough hopefully tricks up their sleeve to pull this thing out. I will also say, and I don't mean this as a knock on the great job that JB Bickerstaff did with the Pistons this season, and I'm sure that he learned plenty, but Tibbs coached the ever living hell out of him 2 years ago, and
He did.
he whooped him. I mean, honestly, from a strategic perspective, he schooled JB Bickerstaff 2 years ago, when he was coach of the Cavs. So different team, different year, different everything. But I'm gonna bet on the Knicks just for those factors. I think I've got them in 6, and I think that they ultimately, the game that they win in Detroit would be that decisive game 6 and call it there. So yeah, I think that's how it's gonna go.
Oh yeah, I could definitely look. The thing is, to me, I could definitely see it going that way. For the Pistons, I think the only way they win is if they win in 6. I think the Knicks could win in 7, and I think the Knicks could win in 5. Like that. I feel like I can only see one possibility, only one way for me. I don't think the Pistons are going to beat the Knicks in 5. I don't think they can win in Madison Square Garden in the game 7. The Knicks, again, we've said it multiple times in this episode. I'm unbiased. I can be objective. The Knicks' talent level should have them at a point where they should be able to handle a Pistons team that is young, inexperienced, and doesn't have the same level of talent. But like I said in the last episode, the numbers say the Pistons should be able to hang. Will the Knicks be willing to go to some of the counters, I think, and Alex also believes they potentially have? We'll find out over the next few weeks. Alex, appreciate you coming on, man. It was a lot of fun. We'll see how this playoff series plays out. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Alex. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 and part 2. Again, like I said, this probably won't be the first or last time we do this with Locked On Knicks throughout this series. We're going to have a lot of fun this series. We'll see how it plays out. I got you guys covered in every which way possible. Podcast will be daily. Locked On Pistons newsletters coming to you guys. I'm looking forward to the series. Let me know what you guys' predictions are in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. But until next time, I'll see you guys later, guys. Stay safe out there. Saturday, Pistons are back, man. Playoffs. Let's get this game 1 win. Till next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody.